What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another page from the playbook. This is Nate coming at you guys with another team in 32 NFL off seasons in 32 days. Yesterday, we talked about the New York Jets. Today, let's talk about those Philadelphia Eagles. Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Gold Fine and Bowles, lawyers for the injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309-673-5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlaybookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video. Looking back on last year, I'm just remembering every week, and it seemed like every single week I was like, man, the Eagles won, but how? I don't know how they won. They weren't the better team on the field that day, but they just kept winning. They started out 10-1, the 2023 Eagles, 10-1. And like I said, just every game I was like, man, they were kind of lucky to win that game. But sitting at 10-1, they then proceed to go 1-5 to finish out the year with losses to the Giants and the Cardinals to blow the division, letting Dallas win the NFC East. And then they go to Tampa in the first round, a game that everyone picked the Eagles to win, and they lose that one too. So just completely fell apart down the stretch. Not great. It was shocking, honestly, shockingly disappointing. Super disappointing end of the season for the Eagles. Started a lot of talk around how maybe Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon were kind of the driving force of that Super Bowl team, that Super Bowl appearing team. So what have the Eagles done this offseason to get themselves back to the Super Bowl, to get themselves back on top of the NFC East and back into like juggernaut territory? Because that's where we had the Eagles, was juggernaut status. Them and the Chiefs, their rematch is coming in hot. And they just completely fell off. Let's talk about it. Going kind of back to the talk around the former coordinators being the driving force of that Eagles team, it almost seems like Sirianni agreed with me because he brought in brand new coordinators. On the offensive side of the ball, they brought in Kellen Moore from the Chargers, formerly of the Cowboys. Obviously, he was freed up from his Chargers obligation as soon as Brandon Staley was fired, so they could take him. He was fantastic in Dallas as the OC. Last year in LA was weird. Team was destroyed by injuries, bad head coaching, and just talent around, all around the place. So the offense was a bummer. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they brought in legendary defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. They definitely tampered with him and should be punished, but we'll see if that happens. Whatever. Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in recent history, if not of all time. And the Eagles' defense has a ton of talent, way too much talent to get gashed the way that they did last year. So he will have those boys humming. Unquestionably, good moves by the Eagles here. I think improvements on both the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator spot. Then we talk about players lost. We're going to start with Jason Kelce, who did retire at the end of this season after coming back for just one more year, and he's so good, man. How can you not like Jason Kelce? Even if you hate the Eagles, how can you not like Jason Kelce? So, one of, if not the best center in football in his time. Very, very good. Hard to see him walk away. Glad he's doing it on his own terms and not because his body kind of failed him. Similar to Aaron Donald, honestly. Then they also traded away edge rusher Hassan Reddick to the Jets. They got a conditional third that could be a second with certain criteria being met. I think he has to play 67% of the snaps, and he also has to get 10 sacks. For those, I think one of those two things has to happen, maybe, or both of them. But either way, those are the criteria. Could be a second rounder. Honestly, a little confusing on this move because, yes, I do think he was a little overrated after how good he played in 2022. But still a really solid edge rusher, and you honestly can never have too many good pass rushers in this league. And now you're hoping that someone like maybe Nolan Smith can step up. I don't know. So Eagles fans, what do you guys think about that trade? Down below. Let me know what you guys think about that move, losing Hassan Reddick. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I also let running back DeAndre Swift walk in free agency, which not very surprising because the Eagles typically don't pay running backs. They never do. They just let him go and bring in a new guy. And I don't think Swift made a huge difference for him last year. So let's talk about players added. Remember how I said they don't typically pay running backs? Yeah, well, they do this year apparently. They brought in rival running back Saquon Barkley, 3 years, nearly $38 million. So a real big contract for a running back, a position that doesn't get these contracts. I mean, he's a stud running back. Let's just call it what it is. Barkley's a very, very good running back. So I'm interested to see how he's used in this Eagles offense. They always just rely on Jalen Hurts' legs, so it'll be fun to watch what they do with Saquon. Then they also brought in edge rusher Bryce Huff on a 3-year, $51 million deal, and this doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you swap edge rushers with the Jets and get a worse player? Bryce Huff is younger. Yes, he's only had one season where he had more than 4 sacks. That's it. He's played 4 seasons in the NFL, and he has had 4 sacks or less, 3 of them. He's had one good season, and it was last year, and he got 10 sacks. I think that's a drastic overpay. I do not see $17 million a year production from him. I just don't see it. So maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it as of right now. I do like them bringing in defensive back C.J. Gardner-Johnson to help beef up the secondary that got absolutely picked on last year. Their secondary was atrocious. And then I like that they made a low-key kind of signing in Devin White. He's only 26 years old, former first-round pick. Looked like a Hall of Fame level linebacker his first 2 seasons in the NFL. And then he kind of fell off a little bit, but he's only 26 years old. I like if Vic Fangio can get a hold of him and work with him. I like that. I like him to grow again and to continue on the path towards being an excellent linebacker for his career. He was so good on those early Bucs teams. I mean, just so good straight out of college. They took him at pick 5? It was an early pick in the draft. So I liked them bringing him in for sure. Overall offseason, I'd say a little positive. 3, maybe 4 starters added to this team. Barkley, maybe Huff sees good playing time. I would hope so at $17 million a year. I think Gardner-Johnson will probably play quite a bit for them, and Devin White should start right in the middle for them, in my opinion. So pretty solid free agency class, but this isn't what Howie Roseman does best. It's not what he does best. Let's talk draft. So coming into the offseason, the Philadelphia Eagles had a very clear-cut need, and that was secondary members, just any and every. And no, they did not add a corner in free agency, so I was a little concerned. I thought, okay, very clear need here. But very rarely do teams draft based on need. It has to be kind of lucky. You have to have fit. You have to have the right player at the right pick in the draft. And it just seems like the heavens are just like, hey, Eagles, you know what you need? You need this guy right here. And at pick number 22, Quinyon Mitchell falls right into the Philadelphia Eagles' lap. That is sickening. Honest to God, sickening. Number 1 corner in my class, in my opinion. Fell all the way because why not? Why wouldn't he fall all the way? Amazing coverage instincts, not afraid to gamble and make a play on the ball, which he really did well at Toledo. His ball skills were second to none in this class. And people were knocking him for his level of competition, and then he goes to the Senior Bowl and absolutely dominates in reps that wide receivers are supposed to dominate. It's supposed to be wide receiver dominant, and he shut him down. He was unbelievable at the Senior Bowl and just continued to fly up draft boards. He's elite. He played elite level at man coverage and in zone coverage per PFF this past season. That's unbelievable. That's so good. And they look at more than just the tape. Like, they look at everything. I trust PFF's numbers. I really do. And for him to fall to 22 is unbelievable. That's a stud pick. But they weren't done. They were not done. Eagles saw an opportunity in the second round and traded up to take Iowa defensive back Cooper DeJean. He had no business being available at pick 40. Absolutely no business. Talk about a chess piece for Vic Fangio to work with, man. Oh my God, he can stick at corner if they want him to. They can move him back to safety, where I'm sure he will be a top-end safety. He's a freak athlete, fantastic ball skills. I cannot believe that he fell all the way to the second round. So you needed secondary members? Here's 2 of the 3 or 4 best in the entire draft class, and you get them both. Score. That's just stupid. I also think that they made a couple of really good picks later on in the draft. I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson probably should have gone in the 3rd round, maybe 4th round, and instead they get him with the 20th pick in the 5th round. What is he doing being available? That doesn't make any sense either. Very talented player, very athletic. And then in the 6th round, they get wide receiver Johnny Wilson, because why not? Unmatched size. I mean, he's 6'7", 6'8". He's an ultimate red zone threat. He's bigger than everyone else on the field. He will be the tallest person on the field, unless he's on the field with like Joe Alt or some other freak at the same exact time. He can go up and get it. He's not a great separator, but when you're bigger than everybody else, you don't need to be a great separator because the ball's coming in high. So if Jalen Hurts can just throw it up to him, I like his odds to go up and get it, honestly. I think he's going to be a bit of a problem. Now you have to cover him. You have to cover A.J. Brown. You have to cover Devontae Smith. You have to cover Saquon out of the backfield. You have to cover Dallas Goedert. I mean, the weapons in the red zone. Pick one. You've got 5 to 6 guys who can score a touchdown easily. And you got this dude in the 6th freaking round. What's that? That's so dumb. I thought he was an early to mid 4th round guy, and they got him in the 6th. That's not fair. It's not fair. How he does this every year, I don't understand. So, Eagles, overall draft, they just continue to get blessed. You have a position of need. You get 2 of, in my opinion, 2 of the 4 best at that position. Of the DBs, you've got Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, I think Terrion Arnold's up there, and then you can argue between Nate Wiggins and Kool-Aid McKinstry to fit in there too. But either way, they're 2 of the best 6 in the entire draft without a question, and you get both of them at picks 22 and 40. That's dumb. I mean, and then you go ahead and you fill up the rest of the depth chart with a solid linebacker pick in Jeremiah Trotter and a wide receiver who will genuinely produce. I mean, we've got 4 players in this draft alone that will contribute. 2 of them will be day one starters. Day one starters. What else could you want out of this draft? I don't know what else you go out of this draft. And there, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to say hello to the first A-plus draft of the 2024 season. I believe it's one of 2. And Howie, you son of a bitch, you've done it again. Every year he just drafts so well. And people hate, oh man, Howie, whatever, Howie's not that good. What? Have you seen this man's drafts? He's so good at drafting. Do the coaches not, like, he drafts, gets players that everybody had going 30 picks earlier. And they fall right into his lap every time. He just gets lucky. Sometimes you just got to get lucky. I don't know. So overall this offseason, yeah, it is hard to lose Jason Kelce. Fortunately, you've drafted so well these last few years that you've got 2 very good interior offensive line position players that have played center. Cam Jurgens played center. Landon Dickerson played center. Both of them were centers in college. Boom, you slide right in. You've got it covered. Like, yeah, it hurts, but they're ready to go. You bring in two very, very good coordinators in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. And then you've got the second best draft class in the entire offseason, in my opinion. I have them as the second best. That's unbelievable. A great draft class, a wash of a free agency, and you bring in 2 stud coordinators. It's our second A-plus this offseason. And, of course, it's the stupid Eagles, who already won, 11 games this past season. We're in the Super Bowl season 2 seasons ago. Like, they don't need an A-plus offseason, and yet they get an A-plus offseason. I hate to say it, but they just continue to push all the right buttons in the offseason in the draft. So we'll see if this offseason can equate to more on-the-field success. But honest to God, I think Howie Roseman's done everything you could ask of a GM. So, yeah, it sucks. Good for you guys. But that's all I've got for you guys on the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see you guys tomorrow in the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason breakdown.